Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we have a very dramatic intermediate level lesson for you.
That's right. Today we're going to take a look at how a court works, for example, in the United States. So you see that in movies and TV shows a lot, you know, the judge and all that.
That's right. Many of you have seen the movie The Firm or 12 Angry Men. These are classics in, courtroom drama, as we say. So today we're in a courtroom, and there are many characters who are trying to determine if this person is innocent or guilty. So let's take a listen and find out what's going on.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Robert Malone, has been accused of a crime he did not commit. The prosecution has accused my client of being a pickpocket. I know we have heard the testimony of many people here today. People who claim the defendant, my client, stole their wallets. I feel sorry for these victims. I really do. But my client is innocent. Let's look at the facts. Number one, these so-called witnesses did not actually see the defendant steal anything. Number two, when the police stopped him, he did not have any of the stolen wallets. There is no evidence. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you to think carefully before giving your verdict. Look at the facts. Look at the evidence. My client is innocent.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. Our verdict is not guilty.
Thank you so much. You were great. Thank you for all your hard work. You're welcome, Robert. I knew you were innocent, so my job was easy. Take care of yourself, okay? Thanks once again. Hey, where's my wallet?
All right, we're back. So you probably heard a lot of technical words that are specifically related to the courtroom, to lawyers, and the laws. So why don't we take a look at some of those now in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
The first language takeaway we're looking at today is all about people. So people you will find in a courtroom. Who is the first person on our list, Marco?
So the top person would be the judge.
Judge.
Now, you didn't really see this word judge in the dialogue, right?
You did hear, though, the phrase, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
So, Your Honor.
So that's how you talk to a judge. You always add Your Honor before it or something.
That's right. So, we say Mr. President when we're talking to Barack Obama. But if we're talking to a judge, he's a special person in American society. So we call him or her Your Honor.
Your Honor. Okay.
All right. Your Honor, the judge. That's our first person.
Okay.
Who else do we have?
So we have the judge, and now we have a group of 12 people who will ultimately decide if the person is guilty or not.
That's right. So these people are normal. They come from all different parts of society, and they will decide what to do with this person. Is he guilty or is she innocent? This group is called the jury.
Okay. So the jury is a group of normal citizens who will listen to both sides of the story and will then decide if the person committed the crime or didn't commit the crime.
That's right, a jury. And the big question is, who's fighting? We have two sides, someone who's upset and someone who is defending themselves. The person who is upset, this is the prosecution.
Okay, so the prosecution has a group of lawyers that are called the prosecutors, right?
That's right.
And they're trying to prove that that person committed the crime.
For example, I say that Marco burned down my house. I go to court, I say, I am the prosecution. I want him to pay me for my house. So I'm the prosecution.
Okay, so you're trying to not only prove that I committed the crime, but also trying to get me to pay for the damage that I caused.
Exactly. So in this case, the prosecution says, this man stole my wallet. He's a pickpocket. And who is the pickpocket? Or maybe the pickpocket. Who's the other side of this?
The defendant.
Defendant. Think about the word here. To defend is to stand up for yourself, to protect yourself.
Right.
So the defendant says, listen, no, that's not true. I am not a pickpocket.
I didn't do that.
So we have the prosecution and the defense. Okay? And the person who might be guilty, the person who did the thing or didn't do the thing, is called the defendant.
Okay. So in your example again about the crime that maybe I burnt your house down or I didn't, I would be the defendant and my lawyers would constitute my defense.
Yeah, they are your defense. Okay?
Okay.
So very technical words, but the important thing to remember here is defendant.
All right. Good. So now we have one key element that is also a person. We have the witness.
All right, so the basic idea, like you said, is we have to tell a story. My story is that you burned down my house. And you say, no, I didn't. Prove it. I say, I can. Someone saw you with a lighter.
Okay.
And so this person is my witness. That means that he or she saw what happened. So someone who sees a crime is a witness to that crime.
Okay, very good. So a lot of people are in the courtroom. A lot of things are happening. So I think we should listen to the dialogue again. And we'll be back to look at some more words on Language Takeaway Part 2.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Robert Malone, has been accused of a crime he did not commit. The prosecution has accused my client of being a pickpocket. I know we have heard the testimony of many people here today. People who claim the defendant, my client, stole their wallets. I feel sorry for these victims. I really do. But my client is innocent. Let's look at the facts. Number one, these so-called witnesses did not actually see the defendant steal anything. Number two, when the police stopped him, he did not have any of the stolen wallets. There is no evidence. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you to think carefully before giving your verdict. Look at the facts. Look at the evidence. My client is innocent.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. Our verdict is not guilty.
Thank you so much. You were great. Thank you for all your hard work. You're welcome, Robert. I knew you were innocent, so my job was easy. Take care of yourself, okay? Thanks once again. Hey, where's my wallet?
I love it when we do this. So many words, so much language to take away.
That's right. So now we're going to take a look at the second part of Language Takeaway, where we have another set of 4 words that we want to take a look at.
Language takeaway.
All right, the first is actually 2 words. We have 2 opposites, okay? So you said earlier, the jury has to make a decision. The jury has to decide, is the defendant innocent or guilty?
Okay.
Okay, these are 2 important adjectives. Innocent, what does this mean?
So if he is innocent, that means he did not commit the crime. He is not responsible for what happened. He did not steal the wallets.
Okay, so we often say babies are so innocent.
Right.
They can't do anything.
They didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
So guilty would be the opposite.
That's right. So usually when someone is guilty, they're sad, they feel bad, you want them to pay you.
And they go to jail.
Yeah, in bad situations, they go to jail. If you burn down my house, of course you're going to go to jail.
Right.
All right, so guilty means you did a crime. You did a bad thing.
So we talked about the prosecution and the defense of the defendant. And what happens is they also present some key elements that will prove if the person is innocent or guilty. And those elements are called evidence.
That's right. So back to this idea, we tell a story. Maybe a witness can help us tell our story. But as you say, evidence is stuff. It's things. So in the case of the house, I could say you have matches and you smell like smoke and oil. This is evidence for me to use to show that you are guilty.
Right.
So in this case, do we have any evidence? There's no evidence, says the defendant.
Right.
All right, so evidence is proof.
It's proof.
Physical proof.
Yeah, and most of the times when you see movies or TV shows, they will find I don't know, like maybe a fingerprint, that's evidence, or somebody's glasses.
A cell phone.
Exactly.
All right, so evidence. This is very important when you want to build a case. Finally, at the end of a trial, we have a verdict. Now, what is a verdict?
So a verdict is a final decision or a conclusion in which the jury says, yeah, the person is guilty or he's not guilty, he's innocent. So we use this word usually to reach a verdict. The jury reaches a verdict.
Now, it's interesting why we say to reach, because a jury is not just one person. A jury is many people. And so these people have to decide together. They have to argue. They have to make a conclusion that everyone agrees on. And this is to reach a conclusion, to reach a verdict, because they have to travel there. They have to go together and figure it out.
Right. That's very, very important. So the jury reaches a verdict.
And we did have one other phrase that's very interesting. It doesn't quite fit with the other ones. We heard this phrase from the defendant. The lawyer says, so these so-called witnesses didn't actually see anything. So what is so-called?
So he's being sarcastic when he uses this phrase, so-called, right? That's why even his tone changes, these so-called witnesses. So it's a way of expressing sarcasm. He's saying they say they are witnesses, but they're not really because they didn't see anything.
Right, so so-called means you say that they are, but they're not really.
Right,
I could also say, your so-called lawyer thinks he can help you, but he can't.
right,
That means, I don't think your lawyer is very good. I don't think he's a real lawyer.
right. Or sometimes people say, my so-called friend stood me up last night.
Oh,
So
so it's not really a friend.
He's not really a friend, exactly.
So-called. All right, that's another good one. Let's listen to this dialogue one more time. Really think about some of the words you heard today, and we'll be back in a moment.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Robert Malone, has been accused of a crime he did not commit. The prosecution has accused my client of being a pickpocket. I know we have heard the testimony of many people here today. People who claimed the defendant, my client, stole their wallets. I feel sorry for these victims. I really do. But my client is innocent. Let's look at the facts. Number one, these so-called witnesses did not actually see the defendant steal anything. Number two, when the police stopped him, he did not have any of the stolen wallets. There is no evidence. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you to think carefully before giving your verdict. Look at the facts. Look at the evidence. My client is innocent.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. Our verdict is not guilty.
Thank you so much. You were great. Thank you for all your hard work. You're welcome, Robert. I knew you were innocent, so my job was easy. Take care of yourself, okay? Thanks once again. Hey, where's my wallet?
All right, we're back. So now a very interesting situation with the courtroom dramas. And I've heard that all the people in the jury have to agree in order for them to reach a verdict, right? So if one of them is not convinced that the person is, for example, guilty, then they have to keep on deliberating. That's the word, right?
That's right. So basically, the jury is always alone in a room. Maybe they have a guard, but they're not supposed to talk to journalists or friends of the defendant or anyone because their decision is supposed to be pure. And so they talk, and sometimes it takes 10 minutes. Everyone agrees this person is guilty or this person is innocent. But sometimes they don't agree, and it can be 1 day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month trying to decide what to do. I remember in the O.J. Simpson case, the jury took a long time to figure out what they were going to do.
And now, we said that the jury are common citizens, they're normal people. So what happens in their jobs, like if they can't go to work because they're doing this?
Well, in America, this job is called jury duty. And so someone will send you a letter, and they say, listen, you need to come do jury duty. And you help be a part of the jury. And your job, they can't make you come because this is a service for the government. And
So it's above everything else.
It's above. You get your normal pay. There's no problem. You just don't work.
Okay. So they can't fire you if you're in jury duty for like 5 days or a month or whatever.
No, they can't. That's illegal.
Wow, that's really interesting. But a lot of people I've heard don't like to go to jury duty for some reason. Is it tedious?
No, it's probably very boring. I've never done it, but it's probably very boring.
I would imagine so. All right, well, that's a very interesting topic. I'm sure in your countries, laws are handled differently. Maybe you don't have a courtroom. Maybe you have, like in England, people wear wigs and black robes. So let us know how it works in your countries. We'll see everyone at our website, englishpod.com. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave those there as well.
See you on the website, and happy studies. Bye everyone.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Succeed in making the finding of a jury in a trial. Reach a verdict. Responsible for doing something bad. Guilty. A respectful title used to or of certain judges. Your Honour. A body of persons sworn to judge. Jury. To charge someone with a crime. Accuse of. To do something, usually a crime. Commit. The lawyers against the defendant. Prosecution. One who steals from pockets. Pickpocket. A declaration of truth or fact. Testimony. The person being sued or accused. Defendant. People affected by a painful or sad experience. Victim. Not guilty. Innocent. Refer to something that is not suitable. So-called. Something that shows the thing is true. Evidence. One who is called on to testify before a court. Witness.
Let's try that faster.
To do something, usually a crime. Commit. A body of persons sworn to judge. Jury. Refer to something that is not suitable. So-called. Responsible for doing something bad. Guilty. A declaration of truth or fact. Testimony. One who steals from pockets. Pickpocket. The lawyers against the defendant. Prosecution. Something that shows the thing is true. Evidence. To charge someone with a crime. Accuse of. One who is called on to testify before a court. Witness. The person being sued or accused. Defendant. Not guilty. Innocent. Succeed in making the finding of a jury in a trial. Reach a verdict. People affected by a painful or sad experience. Victim. A respectful title used to or of certain judges. Your Honour.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Accuse of. Martha accused me of stealing her boyfriend. Accuse of. This man is being accused with murder. Accuse of. The teacher accused the students of being lazy. Testimony. In your testimony, you stated that you were there at the moment of the crime. Testimony. The witness gave her testimony in court today. Testimony. The judge discarded her testimony since it was inaccurate. So-called. I have to go to my so-called job today. I hate it. So-called. I was betrayed by my so-called best friend. So-called. My so-called supervisor makes me do all the work while he is on the phone all day. Reach a verdict. The jury has reached a verdict and we find the defendant not guilty. Reach a verdict. We disagree with the verdict and will appeal to the court's decision today. Reach a verdict. The judge still hasn't reached a verdict in this case. Evidence. There is evidence of life on Mars. Evidence. The forensic scientists recollect and analyze evidence found at the scene of the crime. Evidence. There is no evidence that proves your theory.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another great podcast here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be bringing you bad news.
That's right. Actually, what we're really going to be bringing you is language to talk about bad news.
Exactly. So maybe you have to give bad news to your boss, to your parents, I don't know, somebody, and we're going to be teaching you how to do this in English.
Well, obviously, it's always difficult to tell somebody bad news, but in your second language, it's even harder. So we're going to try and help you today with some great phrases and vocabulary items.
We're not going to preview anything today. Let's go directly to our dialogue where we will be in a company and one of the employees is going to be giving bad news to his boss. So let's listen.
Now that we've been over the gory details of our disastrous first quarter, Ed, give us some good news. How are things looking for us in terms of sales this month?
Well, would you like the bad news first or the really bad news?
What? Ed, don't tell me you only have bad news.
Well, sir, our sales have dropped. No, plunged. 50% in the past month alone. We are currently overstocked and overstaffed and our profits are falling fast. The market is in recession and we have no way of moving our inventory or getting rid of our staff. If we consider redundancies, it would cost us a fortune because of the new regulations governing compensation packages. It's a real mess.
For crying out loud, how fast are we losing money?
How can I put this? Let's just say that at this pace, we will be filing for Chapter 11 in less than 3 months.
What? Jeez, how could this have happened? So what's the bad news?
Oh, that's the really bad news. Our suppliers suffered QC problems and, well, half of our production is faulty. We're going to have to recall all items sold in the last quarter, and the worst part, we're going to have to shoulder this cost.
Are you joking? Get the supplier on the line now. They have to assume the cost of this mess.
We tried that, sir. The factory has gone under and the owner apparently has fled the country.
Oh, we're doomed.
There's some really good news, though.
Really? What?
I got offered a new job.
All right, it sounds like a pretty tough time for this company, doesn't it?
But good news for the employee, he won't be jobless.
Well, I guess he knows when to get out. But why don't we take a look at some of the language now in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
So in Language Takeaway today, we have 5 vocabulary items, and well, let's start with the first one.
All right, so the boss, he's talking about the gory details of our disastrous first quarter. So let's look at the phrase gory details.
All right, so gory details.
Gory details.
This sounds kind of strange. Gory details. It seems very scary.
Well, the word gory comes from gore, like blood and guts, right?
Exactly. That's why it sounds a little bit scary to me.
Yep. So gory details mean all the little details of a negative or shocking or bad situation.
Okay. So the gory details of the meeting, so all the nasty and negative stuff.
Or the gory detail, or you could say the newspaper reported all the gory details of the murder.
Okay. Very good. So gory details. Mm-hmm. So the employee was talking about how bad the company was doing, and he mentioned this word redundancies.
Redundancies.
They are considering redundancies.
Okay, so redundancies, again, it's based on the word to be redundant,
All right, and that means?
to not be needed anymore.
Okay, so redundancies are basically firing people.
It's, well, laying people off. People that you don't need anymore, they are redundancies.
All right, so this is actually a British term, redundancies, to become redundant, because in American English, you would just say layoffs.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
All right, so moving on. They were talking about redundancies and maybe they should or shouldn't lay some people off, but one of the problems were the regulations governing compensation packages.
Okay, so regulations governing compensation packages.
Regulations governing something.
So we have a noun governing noun. Well, what does that mean?
All right, so I think it would help us to understand this a little better if we listen to some examples of this pattern, noun governing noun.
Example 1.
I don't agree with the regulations governing income taxes. People shouldn't have to give away their hard-earned money.
Example 2.
We need to protect the environment. Therefore, there will be new policies governing corporate levels of pollution starting next month.
Example 3.
The lack of regulations governing city transportation has led to many traffic accidents. Okay, great examples. And, well, before we move on, this compensation packages, I guess it's all the things that the company gives you when they lay you off, right?
Right, maybe a certain portion of your retirement benefits
And
or
like a month's pay,
Yeah.
etc.
Yep.
Okay, compensation packages. All right, so moving on to our next item on language takeaway, we have to shoulder the cost.
to shoulder the cost.
All right, so if I shoulder something,
You have to carry it.
I carry it.
Yeah.
Ah, that's a good one. So basically, it's the same as the shoulder, your body.
Yep.
So you carry this cost or you carry this responsibility.
Yep. So you might also hear shoulder the burden.
To shoulder the burden.
Yeah. So it just means to carry the responsibility.
Okay, to share it.
Yep.
All right, interesting. And we have one more word on language takeaway. And the factory has gone under.
To go under.
All right, to go under.
When something goes under, a company goes under, it goes bankrupt.
It goes bankrupt. So it's not working anymore.
That's right.
All right, so to go under. Great vocabulary items here on Language Takeaway today. It's time for us to move on to the next segment of our show where we're going to look at some phrases. So let's start now with Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
All right, so we've got some phrases that you can use when somebody's going to tell you some bad news, but also some phrases you can use to deliver bad news.
All right, so let's start with our first phrase.
So the boss is getting ready to prepare for this bad news, and he says, "Lay it on me."
He's like, okay, lay it on me.
Lay it on me.
So if I say this, lay it on me, I'm just saying, tell me.
Exactly.
So give me the bad news. Mm-hmm. All right, so lay it on me. Very informal, though.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of informal. But our next phrase, the boss is hearing about all this bad news, and he says, "For crying out loud."
For crying out loud.
For crying out loud.
All right, so this is a very common phrase of frustration.
Yep.
Right? So why don't we listen to some examples to kind of understand how we use this phrase?
Example 1.
For crying out loud, when I tell you to have the report done by Wednesday, that means I expect it to be on my desk by the end of the day.
Example 2.
We've got to figure out a new marketing strategy for crying out loud.
Example 3.
For crying out loud, you just got your driving license and you already got in an accident?
So it kind of reminds me of "oh my god."
So you're frustrated. You're just saying this phrase as "oh my god" or something like this.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, this is so annoying."
Exactly. For crying out loud.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to our third phrase. How can I put this?
How can I put this?
So the boss asked him a direct question and he said, well, how can I put this?
So we use this phrase, we want to say something maybe a little bit more indirectly.
Right, so you're looking for words of how you can make it softer or more polite. Maybe
Yep.
the truth or what you're about to say is a little bit strong, so you want to soften it up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say, how can I put this? But then you have to complement it with Let's just say that.
Let's just say that.
Let's just say that.
So how do we use this phrase?
So, for example, somebody asks me, well, what do you mean? Why can't you come on vacation with us? Mm-hmm. And I would say, how can I put this? Let's just say that in 9 months you will hear the pitter-patter of little feet.
Okay, so your girlfriend's pregnant.
Exactly. So you're not saying my girlfriend is pregnant.
You're giving like a metaphor.
A metaphor of what's going on, but you don't want to say it directly.
Yeah.
Right?
Another example, I might say, let's just say that Michael isn't doing a great job.
All right. So maybe there are very strong reasons, or he's doing very, very poorly.
Right, but I'm just sort of not saying it exactly directly that he's doing bad.
Okay, very good. So it's a phrase that you can actually use a lot, and to be a little bit more polite or a little bit more indirect when you're giving somebody some bad news.
Exactly. Two nice sort of complimenting phrases for delivering bad news, and why don't we hear them one more time in the dialogue?
Now that we've been over the gory details of our disastrous first quarter, Ed, give us some good news. How are things looking for us in terms of sales this month?
Well, would you like the bad news first or the really bad news?
What? Ed, don't tell me you only have bad news.
Well, sir, our sales have dropped. No, plunged. 50% in the past month alone. We are currently overstocked and overstaffed, and our profits are falling fast. The market is in recession, and we have no way of moving our inventory or getting rid of our staff. If we consider redundancies, it would cost us a fortune because of the new regulations governing compensation packages. It's a real mess.
You're crying out loud. How fast are we losing money?
How can I put this? Let's just say that at this pace, we will be filing for Chapter 11 in less than 3 months.
What? Jeez, how could this have happened? So what's the bad news?
Oh, that's the really bad news. Our suppliers suffered QC problems, and, well, half of our production is faulty. We're going to have to recall all items sold in the last quarter, and the worst part, we're going to have to shoulder this cost.
Are you joking? Get the supplier on the line now. They have to assume the cost of this mess.
We tried that, sir. The factory has gone under, and the owner apparently has fled the country.
Oh, we're doomed.
There's some really good news, though.
Really? What?
I got offered a new job.
All right, great. So this topic of filing for Chapter 11 is actually very recent, very common now, because recently one of the biggest companies filed for Chapter 11 in the U.S.
Yeah, that's right. But I often get confused by the phrase to file for Chapter 11 versus to file for Chapter 13.
All right, so in the United States, the bankruptcy law has different chapters or different sections, right?
Yep.
And Chapter 11 is basically for companies that run out of money, that go bankrupt, so they have to declare themselves in bankruptcy.
Yep.
And so they file for Chapter 11.
But what about Chapter 13?
Chapter 13 is for people.
Ah, okay.
So people who have large debts, maybe with the car company or the telephone company, and they can't pay, they file for Chapter 13. They say, hey, I don't have money, I can't pay.
All right, and so I guess here it's kind of a metaphor again. You know, it's this phrase to file for Chapter 11 or Chapter 13, meaning bankruptcy.
Right.
And people will say personally that they're filing for Chapter 11.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. So this is an interesting situation because if you file for bankruptcy in some countries, you can go to jail.
I read recently about this happening in Dubai, actually.
Exactly. So there is prison for debts. In the U.S., you don't go to prison for debts.
I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something that's difficult but very important. How to deal with bad news in English, especially in professional or serious situations. Whether it's job-related, financial, or personal, bad news is a part of life. But knowing how to express it clearly, calmly, and respectfully can make all the difference, not only in what you say, but in how people respond. Let's begin with a phrase that's often used when someone is trying to prepare you for bad news. How can I put this? This question doesn't need an answer. It's just a way of saying, I'm trying to find the right words. For example, someone might say, how can I put this? We didn't get the contract. It softens the message and shows that the speaker is trying to be careful and respectful. Another useful phrase is, let's just say that This is often used to give a hint about something without saying it directly. For example, let's just say that the meeting didn't go the way we hoped. It allows the listener to understand that something bad happened, but without going into every painful detail. It's a very natural phrase in English, and one that's used to manage tone and emotion. Now let's look at how people deliver news about financial problems. If a company is struggling, someone might say, "Our profits have plunged this quarter." The word plunged means dropped suddenly and deeply. It's stronger than fell or went down. You can also say, "Sales have taken a big hit," or "revenue is down across the board." These are common business expressions used to describe economic trouble. When a business is in serious danger, you might hear someone say, "We may not survive this," or "There's a risk we could go under." The phrase "go under" means to close permanently, often because of money problems. It's an informal but powerful way to say that a business may not continue. Here's another phrase that's important. "We'll have to shoulder the cost." This means someone has to take financial responsibility, even if the situation is unfair. For example, if the partner leaves, we'll have to shoulder the cost ourselves. The word shoulder here is a verb that means to carry or accept responsibility. It's used a lot in business and news reports. In more serious cases, you may hear about redundancies, which is the British English word for layoffs. In American English, we usually say layoffs or job cuts. A manager might say, "Unfortunately, we're planning a round of redundancies," or "There will be staff reductions in the coming weeks." These are difficult sentences to say, and learning how to deliver them politely is an important skill. Sometimes people try to soften the bad news with humor or an idiom. They might say, "Well, that's a kick in the teeth," or "not the news we were hoping for." These phrases don't change the facts, but they help people feel a little less shocked. Another phrase is, "It is what it is," which means we can't change it, so we just have to deal with it. And finally, there's a phrase that shows frustration but is very common in Real English: "For crying out loud." This is not rude, but does show strong emotion. You might hear, "For crying out loud, this is the third delay this week." It's a way to express stress or disappointment in a natural, informal tone. Learning how to give and respond to bad news is one of the most important parts of mastering English for real life. Whether it's financial pressure, a missed opportunity, or a company crisis, using phrases like "How can I put this?", "Go under," "Shoulder the cost," and "For crying out loud" helps you sound clear, respectful, and confident, even in tough situations. When you're on the receiving end of bad news, the way you respond matters just as much as the way the news is delivered. In English, we often use short, powerful phrases that show emotion, understanding, or even shock, but without sounding rude or unprofessional. Today, we're going to explore those phrases, and we'll also look at how to keep a conversation going when the topic is difficult or unexpected. Let's begin with a simple, very natural response. "Wow, I wasn't expecting that." This sentence works in almost any situation, from minor disappointments to major surprises. It's honest, respectful, and allows you to pause and process the news without overreacting. You could also say, "That's a lot to take in," or "That caught me off guard." These expressions are useful when you're trying to stay calm and thoughtful while your mind is still catching up with the message. Now, sometimes people react with a question, which helps them understand what went wrong. You might hear or say, "What happened?" or "Do we know why?" These short questions are direct, but not aggressive. They allow you to get more context without placing blame. Another polite question is there anything I can do? It shows empathy and support, especially if someone is dealing with a personal or professional loss. Let's also look at how people express disappointment without sounding negative. A very common phrase is, "That's unfortunate." It sounds formal, but it's useful when you want to be polite. You can also say, "That's tough," or "That's not easy to hear." These phrases show that you're being respectful to the speaker while still acknowledging the seriousness of the news. Now here's a cultural tip. In English-speaking workplaces, people often use understatement to deal with bad news. That means they choose softer words to keep emotions in control. For example, instead of saying, "That's terrible," they might say, "That's not ideal," or "It's a bit of setback." These phrases make the situation sound more manageable, which helps people stay calm and focused. You might also hear someone say, "We'll get through this," or "It's not the end of the world." These phrases are encouraging, and they're often used when someone is trying to lift the mood or keep the team motivated. Even if things are going badly, a phrase like, "Let's focus on what we can control," helps shift the attention to problem solving. Sometimes, you might want to express more emotion, especially if you feel disappointed or frustrated. In that case, you can say, "That's such a shame," or "I really thought things would go differently." These phrases are natural and human. They allow you to express your feelings without sounding angry or unprofessional. There's also a very casual phrase that people use when they're ready to hear bad news: "Lay it on me." This means, "Go ahead, tell me the news, even if it's bad." It's informal and often used when someone expects the worst but wants to stay strong. For example, "Okay, I know you have bad news. Lay it on me." It's a phrase you'll hear in TV shows, movies, and even real office conversations. Reacting to bad news with calm, clear, and thoughtful language shows emotional intelligence and professionalism. Phrases like that a lot to take in. "We'll get through this," "That's unfortunate," and "Lay it on me" are the kinds of real English that people use to support each other, respond maturely, and keep the conversation respectful, even when the message is hard to hear. When bad news affects a group, like a workplace team, a business partnership, or a family, it's not just about delivering or receiving the message. It's also about what happens next. How do people talk about moving forward? How do they express plans, pressure, or responsibility after something goes wrong? That's what we're going to focus on today. The real English used for discussing consequences and next steps after difficult news. Let's begin with a phrase that often comes up after a setback. "We need to regroup." This means the team needs to pause, meet again, and find a new plan. For example, "Things didn't go as planned. We need to regroup and figure out what's next." This phrase is commonly used in business, sports, and even family decisions. It communicates the idea that even though something went wrong, people are not giving up, they're reorganizing. Another common expression is, "We'll have to make some tough calls." The phrase "tough call" means a difficult decision. You might hear, "It's a tough call, but we may need to cut our budget," or "Reducing hours was a tough call, but it had to be done." This phrase shows that the speaker didn't make the decision lightly, and it adds a sense of thoughtfulness and responsibility to the conversation. Sometimes, people use phrases like, "This puts us in a difficult position." That means the news has made things harder, and the team or individual now has to deal with the consequences. A manager might say, "The client pulling out puts us in a difficult position. We'll have to act fast." It's a respectful way to talk about challenges without pointing fingers. Let's also look at how people express pressure. You'll often hear the phrase, "The pressure is on." This means it's a high-stakes moment and there's little room for mistakes. For example, "We only have 2 weeks left. The pressure is on to deliver results." Another variation is, "We're under pressure to cut costs." These expressions are realistic and very common in professional settings. Now, when someone takes responsibility, they might say, "I'll take the lead on this," or "Leave it with me. I'll handle it." These phrases show leadership and willingness to act. On the other hand, if someone is assigning responsibility, they might say, "You'll need to take point on this project." In business English, take point means to be in charge or lead the effort. Another helpful expression is, "We have to contain the damage." This is often used when things have already gone wrong, and now the goal is to stop the situation from getting worse. For example, "Let's get ahead of this story before it spreads. Contain the damage while we still can." It's a phrase used in PR, management, and crisis communication. If someone wants to change direction after a setback, they might say, "We need to pivot." The word pivot means to turn or shift strategy. For example, "Our original plan didn't work, so we need to pivot to something new." It's a very popular expression in business, especially when companies face unexpected changes. You might also hear the phrase, "cut our losses." This means to stop doing something that isn't working and accept the loss before it gets worse. A company might say, "This project is costing too much. We have to cut our losses and move on." This is about being practical, even when it's disappointing. Talking about what comes next after bad news is a big part of professional English. It's about being realistic, responsible, and solution-focused. Phrases like tough call, regroup, take point, contain the damage, and cut our losses help you sound like someone who's ready to handle difficult moments with clarity and calm. And that's a powerful skill, not just in language, but in life. Sometimes when bad news hits, emotions run high. People feel frustrated, betrayed, disappointed, or even angry. That's completely normal. But knowing how to express those emotions in English without making the situation worse is a powerful communication skill. In today's part, we'll focus on how people express frustration, disappointment, or shock in a way that's real, but still respectful and constructive. Let's begin with a very natural phrase. This is hard to believe. It shows surprise, but it's not aggressive. For example, the company is shutting down? That's hard to believe. You can also say, I didn't see this coming. That's another way to express shock or confusion without blaming anyone. When people are disappointed, a common phrase is, that's not what I expected. It's honest, calm, and helps keep the conversation open. You might also hear, I thought we were in a good place, or I really believe this would work out. These phrases show emotional honesty, but still allow for respectful dialogue. Now let's talk about expressing frustration. One common way to do that in English is with the phrase, this is really frustrating. You can add more detail. It feels like we're going in circles, or no matter what we do, nothing seems to work. These are clear and real expressions, but they don't sound like a personal attack. That's important, especially in work environments where tone matters just as much as words. Another helpful phrase is, we deserve better communication. This is a respectful way to say you're unhappy with how the news was shared. For example, I understand things are changing, but we deserve better communication moving forward. This sentence expresses concern while still sounding professional. When people feel that they've been left out or ignored, they might say, I wish we had been informed sooner, or it would have helped to know this earlier. These phrases give feedback without turning the conversation into a conflict. They're especially helpful in meetings, feedback sessions, or group discussions. Sometimes people use expressions that show emotional weight, like, it feels like a punch to the stomach, or this is a tough pill to swallow. These are metaphors that describe the emotional impact of bad news. They're common in English, and they help listeners understand how serious or personal the situation feels. Another example is, that hit me harder than I expected. It shows vulnerability and honesty, and it invites empathy from others. Let's also look at the phrase, I'm trying to process this. This is something people say when they've just heard difficult news and need a moment to think. You might say, give me a minute. I'm still trying to process this. It's a healthy way to slow down the conversation and give yourself space to respond clearly. And here's a great way to express doubt or concern. Are we sure this is the only option, or is there really no other way? These kinds of questions help open up discussion without directly challenging the decision. They sound thoughtful rather than emotional, and they give others a chance to respond with more information. Even in very emotional moments, English offers ways to speak truthfully and respectfully. Whether it's this is hard to believe, we deserve better communication, I'm trying to process this, or this feels like a punch to the stomach, these expressions help you express strong feelings in a smart and effective way. They show that you can stay calm, speak clearly, and still be honest, even when the news is difficult. After bad news is delivered and the first reactions have settled, people often start to think about closure, support, and how to move forward. The language we use at this stage matters a lot. It can bring comfort, restore confidence, or simply help someone feel heard. Today, we're going to explore how English speakers offer support, express understanding, and help others deal with difficult changes in a healthy and respectful way. Let's start with a thoughtful phrase you might hear in conversations after a major disappointment. I'm here if you need anything. It's simple but powerful. It tells the other person that they're not alone and that you're available. You can also say, let me know if there's anything I can do. These are great ways to show support without being too pushy or over-involved. Now, when someone is feeling uncertain or lost, another helpful phrase is, take your time. You might say, take your time to think it over, or there's no rush. Let's figure this out together. These expressions create space for someone to breathe, process, and avoid pressure. When people are reflecting on what happened, they might say, "We did the best we could with the information we had." This phrase helps reduce feelings of guilt or regret. It's realistic and shows that even when the result wasn't perfect, the effort was there. You could also hear, "We made the best decision we could at the time." These are comforting, practical ways to accept what happened and let go of blame. Let's also look at how English speakers talk about learning from a bad experience. You might hear, "There's something to learn from this," or "This is tough, but it's teaching us something." These phrases shift the conversation from failure to growth. Another strong sentence is, "It didn't go the way we hoped, but we'll use this to get better." That kind of language turns loss into motivation. Sometimes, when things feel overwhelming, a phrase like "one step at a time" can bring calm. You can say, "We'll rebuild one step at a time," or "You don't have to fix everything today. Just take the next step." These are reassuring words that people often say in personal, professional, or emotional situations. If someone is blaming themselves, you can use language like, "This isn't all on you," or "Nobody could have predicted this." These phrases ease the emotional burden and help the person feel supported. It's also useful to say, "We're all in this together," which reminds everyone that they're part of a team and that the responsibility is shared. Another helpful phrase is "What's done is done." This is used to gently say, "We can't go back. We have to move forward now." It's often followed by something encouraging like, "Let's focus on what we can do next." And sometimes, when people feel low, what they really need to hear is simple reassurance. You can say, "You're stronger than you think," or "You've handled worse. You'll get through this too." These phrases are not just about comfort. They're about reminding people of their strength, even in difficult times. The way we speak after bad news can truly shape the future. When we say things like "Take your time," "We did the best we could, one step at a time," and "You're not alone," we help others find stability, courage, and a path forward. These are not just English phrases. They're human tools for healing, and learning to use them makes you a more compassionate and confident communicator.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
The minimum return below which an enterprise becomes unprofitable.
Margin.
The entire amount of income before any deductions are made.
Revenue.
Having no money. Informal.
Broke.
The lowest possible level or absolute bottom.
Hit rock bottom.
Cause to rise rapidly and suddenly.
Skyrocket.
All the small details.
Gory details.
Tell me the bad news.
Lay it on me.
Drop down suddenly and quickly.
Plunge.
Very bad. Having bad results.
Disastrous.
Regarding. About.
In terms of.
Having too many things to sell.
To be overstocked.
Have too many employees.
Be overstaffed.
The amount of products you have to sell.
Inventory.
Remove or take away something that is annoying.
Get rid of.
Layoffs. Ending employment of staff for money reasons.
Redundancies.
Be responsible for the cost.
Shoulder the cost.
Rule.
Govern.
Used to express anger or annoyance.
For crying out loud.
Bankruptcy. Owing more money than you can pay.
Chapter 11.
The process of controlling the quality of production. Quality control.
Quality control. Let's try that faster.
Regarding. About.
In terms of.
Tell me the bad news.
Lay it on me.
Having too many things to sell.
To be overstocked.
Used to express anger or annoyance.
For crying out loud.
Rule.
Govern.
The amount of products you have to sell.
Inventory.
The process of controlling the quality of production. Quality control.
Quality control.
The entire amount of income before any deductions are made.
Revenue.
All the small details.
Gory details.
Layoffs. Ending employment of staff for money reasons.
Redundancies.
Remove or take away something that is annoying.
Get rid of.
Cause to rise rapidly and suddenly.
Skyrocket.
Very bad. Having bad results.
Disastrous.
Having no money. Informal.
Broke.
Be responsible for the cost.
Shoulder the cost.
The lowest possible level or absolute bottom.
Hit rock bottom.
Bankruptcy. Owing more money than you can pay.
Chapter 11.
Have too many employees.
Be overstaffed.
The minimum return below which an enterprise becomes unprofitable.
Margin.
Drop down suddenly and quickly.
Plunge. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Gory details. Without going too much into the gory details of the current economy, you should know that we expect business to slow down in the next few months. Gory details. Spare me the gory details. How are we going to survive this financial crisis? Gory details. Tell me all about your pregnancy, sparing me the gory details, of course. We need to protect the environment. Therefore, there will be new policies governing corporate levels of pollution starting next month. I don't agree with the regulations governing income taxes. People shouldn't have to give away their hard-earned money. The lack of regulations governing city transportation has led to many traffic accidents. Our insurance for a financial crisis expired 6 months ago, so we are going to have to shoulder the cost of this loss. We are going to have to shoulder the majority of the costs for this project. Many of our investors pulled out. You are going to have to shoulder the costs if you break that vase. For crying out loud. For crying out loud. When I tell you to have the report done by Wednesday, that means I expect it to be on my desk by the end of the day. For crying out loud.